games like the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm the chief rock, got me stats of abuse. I'm hits my boots, trying to take what's my wife's. Trying to steal a part of me that creates a life, but I am not giving in. Though my body is been thinking on the right places, I do not want to sin. Be not the flesh, be proud the best that I can. I'm sorry, this was in the ring on his head. Means it is what it's taking.
It's a dreaded farmer jumping on here. Do a little marriage motivation. Also, waiting for a few people to jump on. Gonna vibe to this. I'm on my physio ball. You ought to try it. It's good for your core, back, and everything. So if you see me bouncing up a little bit, it's because I'm on the physio ball. It's all good. Abundantly blessed, highly favored, as you are. We'll talk about that. You turn the music off. All right, so Dreaded Farmer, it's Monday. Do a little marriage motivation. As many of you know, that marriages are being attacked left and right by the evil one, and it's sad to see because there's so many people that are giving up so quickly, even after making their vows with the one that they chose. People out there that don't have someone to lay next to at night. There's people out there that have never found that person that would say yes to them. Maybe they want to get married, maybe they want to settle down, but no one has said yes. And there's just a lot going on out in the world, and we're all going through it, and the bottom line is, whatever I'm telling you about, I'm going through it too. My marriage is not perfect, but we love each other and we're committed to working things out. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. And that's what because again, we're not perfect. We argue, we have our disagreements, we don't see eye to eye. There's times when she wants to strangle me, because I'm just not getting what she's saying or wanting. Maybe my brain just doesn't go there. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, however you want to put it. We're different, right? But we've made a common bond, right? We want to love each other, we want to love God. So we make a sacrifice. So just to kind of bring you back to speed on some of the other topics that we talked about. We talked about in previous sessions, talked about love. What is love? Love is not, it's not just a feeling. It's not just, getting goosebumps when you see someone. It's a verb. It's something you do. It's a sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice your needs and wants for the person you love? Are you willing to sacrifice your desires for theirs? Are you willing to sacrifice your rights for theirs? Are you willing to put them first? And I think a good marriage is a marriage where people are putting the others first. So kind of looking at love in scripture brought me to a few of the New Testament translations. So you have eros, which is in Greek for the physical love. So that's like the infatuation that you have. Like when I first met my wife, it's like, wow, she's beautiful. How in the world did a guy like me end up with someone like her? And you just want to be with them every minute. And you have that physical attraction, that chemical change in your body whenever you see them or touch them or whatever. So that's that physical love, eros. Then you have phileo, which is brotherly love. And this is actually the word where we get the, Philadelphia from, the city of brotherly love. So phileo is brotherly love. So that's a love that you have for other people around you, right? Brotherly. So your best buddies, that's phileo, right? And then there's agape. And agape can be love for a neighbor, or it could be love for your spouse, it could be love for your brother, it could be love for anybody, but it's a love that's godlike. It's a love that's a sacrifice. Think about the sacrifices that God has made for us, right? So that is God. That's a sacrificial love. That is putting the needs of others first. That's putting the wants of others first. That's putting their will before yours, right? And a good marriage has a lot of that agape love in it, because you realize that, hey, I'm not perfect. It's just like church and synagogue, that whole system is not perfect because we're in it, right? We're not perfect. So we make that system imperfect, right? But God makes things perfect. So in our relationship, our marriage, right? My marriage is not perfect because I'm in it. Okay? Hear me on this. I'm in this marriage, so it's not perfect. I'm the one that'll mess it up, right? So I have to know that, hey, I'm not perfect, but I have to strive for that perfection when it comes to my wife. And I have to strive for that perfection in our household. So just because I'm not perfect doesn't mean I don't want to be perfect. Doesn't mean I don't want to practice being perfect or strive to be perfect, right? It's just like when God said to be holy because he's holy. That's basically letting us know that it is possible to be holy because he's holy, right? So we should strive for that perfection. We should strive for that agape love for our spouse, right? And I think what's important to understand is, if I'm going to strive for perfection, because my marriage is not perfect because I'm there, right? So if I'm going to be able to do anything that could help perfect my marriage, it's going to be conflict resolution, because we know that when we wake up in the morning with that breath of life that God gave us, that we could be blessed and thankful for, the minute we engage with another human being, there's an opportunity for conflict because we're imperfect, right? So knowing that conflict is going to happen, then you got to prepare yourself for that conflict. So these are some things that I learned recently from a mentor. It's Pastor Tom Christian. He's at First Christian Church. It's in New Hampshire. I think it's in New Hampshire. But anyway, so basically, how do we get from eros, that romantic love, that giddy feeling, that, ooh, she's so pretty and all that, and I just can't wait to be with her. I can't wait to go out and to a movie and, hold hands and all that, to a sacrificial love that is good for conflict resolution, because eros is not good for conflict resolution. The minute, if all your eggs are in the eros basket, then the minute you get into an argument, then you're going to say, the love is gone. We're not compatible. I want out, right? So how do you get from that to fighting for your marriage when there's conflict? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So there's some common responses to conflict, right? So one of the most common is to retreat. So that's just saying, I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with it. Stop talking to me, talk to the hand, that kind of stuff. And of course, does that resolve anything? Absolutely not. That just makes that bitterness fester, that unforgiveness, it could lead to hate, despising the other spouse. All those things lead to bitterness and envy, and those things cause literal health problems, and friends, I don't want you to have health. I don't want you to be sick. I want you to be well. So this is spiritual wellness that also leads to physical wellness, because when you harbor that bitterness, you harbor that anger, that frustration, that, being unloved, unforgiven, all those things will cause health problems, and we don't want that, right? So obviously retreating is not the best option when there's a conflict. Then there's number 2 is basically destroying the opponent. So it's like the opposite of retreating. So retreating is like, I can't deal with this, so let me leave. Let me remove myself from the situation. And then there's the destroying the opponent, where you actually attack. So instead of retreating, you're attacking, and you're doing everything you can to tear them down so that you feel better. So I'm going to tear you down so I feel better, so I feel bigger. You're down here, I'm up here, right? That doesn't work. That's confrontational. That's ungodly, unspiritual. That's aggression. That's the anger that scripture says that human anger doesn't produce the righteousness that God desires. So if we know that our own anger doesn't produce that kind of righteousness, then we know that when we get angry, we're going to do something wrong to the other person. So we don't want to do that. So the third option would be to respectfully engage. And I love that phrase, respectfully engage, because obviously you want to engage so that you can get to the root of the problem, right? And you want to have a heart of solving the problem, getting to a solution, but you're respectfully engaging. And what does that mean? So it means to basically be humble and assertive. So be assertive because you're attacking the problem. You're not going to let the sun go down on your anger and on your situation. You're going to resolve it. You're going to seek resolution. You're going to seek forgiveness. You're going to forgive. You're going to make, a pact with your spouse that you're not going to let these dumb arguments ruin your marriage, and you're not going to let them fester to the point where you make a mountain out of a molehill. So in the end, it's like, don't let evil overcome you. You have to overcome evil. And one passage in scripture that I always go back to, it's one of the first times in scripture where there's conflict, and it's in Genesis 4 between Cain and Abel. And Cain brought a sacrifice and Abel brought a sacrifice. God accepted Abel's sacrifice but not Cain's, and Cain was very sad about it, super sad. And then God said, basically he said, why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? And then he goes on to say, but if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. And so I always go to that because God's basically saying that sin desires to take over, desires to overcome me, but I have to master it. I have to overcome that sin. So when I'm in conflict, I have to realize that, hey, this is a spiritual conflict, because we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. So if I can touch it and feel it and see it, that's not the enemy. That's not what I'm fighting against. My wife is on my side. My wife is not the enemy. So when we get into a conflict, I have to realize that, first of all, my wife's not the enemy, and then that I need to overcome these feelings of anger and sin and things like that is going to cause me to do something that I'm going to regret, right? Because again, my marriage is not perfect because I'm in it, right? So I'll be the first to admit that I'm not perfect. I've done some things to hurt my wife. I've done some things, and she's done some things that have put us in those seasons where we're like, man, what is going on? But we know that in the end, when we look back, most of these arguments are something very dumb that we can almost laugh about and be like, I don't even know why that was such a big deal. But in the middle of the argument, of course, it's a big deal. It feels real, right? But we can't go by that. All right. So we have to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And that's biblical. That's in the book of Yaakov or James. One thing that I learned from Pastor Christian is he said to let the heat die down. So when you get in that major argument and tempers are flaring and stuff's getting hot, let the heat die down. So don't try to respectfully engage when your spouse is still on fire, right? So let them calm down, and then even ask the other person for the appropriate time to talk. Give them the courtesy and honor of becoming a part of the solution. And in the end, when you become, or when you get into that conversation, prayerfully prepare for that conversation. Pray for the right words. Pray for a heart of resolution, right? Pray for a heart of forgiveness. Don't go in there and start bringing up past stuff. Whatever's in the past is in the past. Leave that alone. Pray that you can resolve what's going on right now. Stay current. Stay current. I'm telling you, so many arguments and disagreements have gone so far south just because people started bringing up old stuff. Don't bring up old stuff. Stay current, stay current, stay current. If you've already forgiven your spouse for something in the past, let that go. Don't ever bring that back up. And I know I say this all the time, but it's true. Don't ever bring that back up. Don't ever throw that in their face when you get mad. Don't say, oh, remember how back in 1985 you did this? Don't bring that up if you've already forgiven. And if there's something out there that you haven't forgiven, that you feel like bringing up in a conversation, maybe you need to forgive them for that and let that one go too. All right. So there's a lot more that I want to share with you on this, but I think it's a huge point to let that, let the heat die down and ask for an opportunity to talk where you can be calm and you can work together, and you want to enter the encounter with the willingness to make the changes yourself. So don't just go into a situation where, okay, I just want to talk to you about what you're doing wrong and why you're messing everything up. No, you need to go in there. You need to evaluate yourself and realize that, okay, it takes two to tango. So I'm a part of this. So whatever's messed up is partially me. So if you go into that knowing that, hey, I've done something to mess this thing up, then now you can engage with your spouse and you can humbly, respectfully engage in a loving way, in an agape way, basically, relinquishing your rights for theirs in order to find a solution, to, show your humility and allow the situation to be worked out so that the sun doesn't go down on your anger and frustration. So you have to be willing to make some changes. You have to know that there's something you did wrong in this situation and have that humble spirit. And Scripture tells us that a humble spirit will retain water, which means gain influence. So if you have a humble spirit with your spouse, you might gain influence in the situation where they'll respect you, trust you, and want to hear what you have to say. So before meeting, like I said before, you need to commit to refrain from bringing up the past. So before you meet with your spouse, commit that, hey, we're going to have this conversation and I'm not going to bring up anything old. I'm going to stay current and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm telling you, you're going to see some fruit. You're going to see lots of fruit in these conversations if you do that. The minute you bring up something old, that's just another, nail in the coffin, so to speak. So stay current, love on your spouse. Remember that you chose that spouse. You chose, like I chose her. I love her. I chose her. She was a gift and still is a gift from the Most High. So I have to treat her like a gift from the Most High. And I have to refrain from going back to anything in the past. I don't have any problem with things she's done in the past, and I can't let those become a problem whenever she does something now, or if I do something now, she can't bring that old stuff back up. We've covered that. We've forgiven. We need to forget. That needs to go to the sea of forgetfulness. All right. So don't take cheap shots. Don't take cheap shots. Don't bring up the past. I can't reiterate that enough. Okay. So relate with the facts only. Reveal the truth about the situation and request, basically request a time to resolve it, right? And I want you to remember that the word is respectfully engage. So we know that you love your spouse. We know that you respect your spouse. So in that situation, when there's conflict, you need to show even more respect than you normally show, just to allow the environment for a good conversation. So you want to create an environment for a great conversation and let both of your hearts come back together as one. And then later on, you can laugh about the situation and realize that, hey, we're not going to let these arguments take our marriage down. So I hope that you live in that you share that with anybody that you know that's going through it, because there are so many marriages where people are going through this trial right now. They're going through the wilderness. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how God is working in their lives. But just know that you are his prized creation and he has a plan for you. He loves you. He wants you to prosper. He wants you to have shalom, which is peace. And he wants you to be all about the light, okay? Yeshua is the light of the world. He wants you to be the light of the world. But we first have to be the light in our marriage. So be the light in your marriage. Take the high road. Forgive often. Ask for forgiveness often. Don't bring up the past. And respectfully engage while showing that agape love, that sacrificial love. I want y'all to live it, love it, share it. You know I love all y'all, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Dreaded Farmer, signing out. Shalom.